like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is a morning number for June 7th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns. Sitting right over there. I'm going to introduce you in a second. I was thinking about something. Alex Jones. Say hello to my friend here. It's over Scott. I have known Scott. Some of you who have listened or watched the Rooster Teeth podcast remember Scott's appearance. One appearance or two appearances?
It was one appearance. It was like one of your last shows with Barb and Gavin and Gus.
How long have we known each other?
When did you come to school? 90? So
90?
34 years?
That's fucking crazy, dude.
That's a long time, dude.
34 years is a long time.
But the encouraging thing there is you're still my friend. So, I mean, that, you know what I mean?
Let's not go throwing words around like friend.
Fair enough.
Like I said, I'm in Austin this week. I didn't really say why I was here, but we kind of inferred it. No, wait. I implied it. Implied is when you put it in the statement. Inferred is when you pull it out of the statement, right?
Infer is mean it's not spoken. Actually, no, I guess.
So I
they
imply
might be able
it.
to use them interchangeably.
I imply it, but you infer it. That's
Sure.
the way I learned. I learned like ply is like you're folding something.
By the way, you've already established different rules here. But I am the first person I think that I've ever heard you not go sitting right over there. You go, nah, we're not going to do that today. Screw that guy. I mean, come on.
Delay.
And you used Alex Jones as my drop. Thanks a lot.
I had thoughts about Alex Jones. I wanted to share them before I talked to you, but you were, of course, in Austin at the time that Alex Jones was on Access Television.
And that's one of your favorite things about me, too.
But I was saying, I'm here in Austin because we're shipping out the coins for the Patreon.
Right.
And I said, this is going to be a lot of folding, a lot of stuffing envelopes, sending things off. And Scott's like, I'll come help.
Yeah.
That was my impression of you. How was that, by the way?
Not very good. I probably used some cuss words in there.
I'll come at me.
Yeah, my voice was probably a little higher.
Scott is in a group of my friends that I really don't ever talk about him. I didn't talk about him pretty much the entire time I was at Rooster Teeth. You made one appearance on there, but these are friends I've had for now 3 decades. Like,
why do you think that is?
We do stuff together all the time.
You?
What's that?
Do we embarrass you?
No, I think it's important to have like, I don't know, like separation of church and state kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
That's probably an apt comparison.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's a group of guys that we have known each other for so long. There's, 7 of us total? Yeah. We've known each other for so long. It's like, it's that group. I think it's important to have a group of friends where you can just you can say anything to those people, anything that's going on in your life, anything you're concerned about, anything you're happy about, whatever. You can talk to them about whatever.
But also keep in mind the time period. We just all come out of high school. We're at a very new and one of the biggest inflection points of your life, right? College, where you're screwing around, you're learning stuff. This is your empty nest from your parents. So it's a growing period for all of us, right? And then all of a sudden you're out of there and you're expected to be an adult.
What the hell are you? This is an emotional moment with Scott. Listen to you. You're all mature.
I have my moments. I'm sure in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so, we'll revert right back to where you think.
Yeah, this is not the Scott I get a lot of times.
Stop it.
You need to get that mic closer to your face, by the way.
Hello.
But we know each other so well that we were talking about this the other day. We have imitations we can do of each other where we will know in one syllable. Like we have one syllable imitations of each other, impressions of one another. Like if I do this, if I go, hey, who's that?
Ross Ray.
Okay. That's our friend Ross.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of group of friends. So that's where Scott comes from. So welcome to the podcast, Scott.
Thank you.
Scott also is a great person having on a podcast because like the person in our drop, he's a fucking lunatic and he believes in about 1,000 conspiracy theories. And so I'm getting there. In my old age, I'm getting there.
Okay.
But Scott always wants to talk about conspiracy theories and things like that. I want you to explain Terryology to me today.
Nobody can explain Terryology. Even he can't.
Dude, you are so perfect for this because A, you're a nut job like Terrence Howard. And B, you're a mathematics degree holder.
Yeah, guess what? He's not. He's wrong about everything. Even the few physicists that have decided to chime in on this guy are like, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But 1 times 1 will always be 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. It's not 5.
But can you explain, like, what's his thought process? Or is there just nothing there?
Here's his thought process. He has a God complex. He's probably a narcissist. He has a lot of money and a lot of time.
Game recognized game.
And stop it. and you know what? He made a lot of good movies, has a lot of money to mess around, and people are going to give him his platform so he can spew his nonsense.
And you just think it's utter nonsense. There's not like
100%.
He's not. It just seems like maybe he's going in a direction. It's almost like the scientific method where he like had a hypothesis. It does seem like he spent time studying this stuff, but then it didn't reach the conclusion he wanted. So he just kind of ignored that part and went with what he thought at the beginning.
Oh, he definitely ignored it. I mean, he went to Oxford. I mean, this is a perfect example. People are willing to give him the stage for moments at a time, and they let him over. They laughed him out of the place. Yeah, I mean, I've seen more videos now. By the way, when you said Terryology the other day, when I shut this guy off so early, I didn't even know that term. I was like, "Oh, you're talking about Terrence Howard?" Yeah, no. I dismissed this guy immediately. I was very surprised that Joe Rogan gave him a show. I'm like, did they not vet this guy?
You like Rogan? Do you listen to Rogan?
I listen to Rogan rarely. I have other guys that I listen to now. I appreciate what Rogan's done for the industry, particularly, guys like you, guys like, this one guy I'm turned on to, Danny Jones and some other folk.
Relation to Alex Jones?
No. Well, no.
Hey, did you ever hear the crackpot theory about Alex Jones?
Which one's that?
Well, listen to this. So it's conspiracy theories about a conspiracy theorist. There is one that I find fascinating, though.
Hit me.
So most people won't even know who this is, but you will because you were in Austin in the early 90s. There's a theory that Alex Jones is a character created by Bill Hicks.
You're talking about the comedian, obviously, right?
Yeah, the guy that died.
Incredibly.
Quote, unquote, died. And so the conspiracy theory is that he faked his death and became the Alex Jones character that he created. You haven't heard that before?
No, but I see it.
I see it too because we'll put it in the link dump.
That's amazing.
Side by side.
You actually blew my mind.
It is right. It is. I have never talked to you about that before, but I read that somewhere. And I went, ha. Wait a minute, because they actually do look very similar,
and they sound the same too. Bill Hicks had a little bit more twang in his voice, and he was a lot funnier, obviously. But I mean. Even Bill,
but he was so aggressively anti-establishment that if he was going to make a character different than himself, but in the same kind of vein, if that makes sense, Alex Jones is that person,
But back to what you were saying earlier. I mean, yes, I do. I have been exposed to a lot of crazy stuff just because I find that stuff fascinating. But I mean. The problem with conspiracy theories in general, and just call them conspiracies, because, I mean, there's enough stuff in our past that has been proven to be true over time that can we just call them either theories or conspiracies? I mean, I'm pretty sure JFK, I think the majority of folks out there believe that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. I think most people out there understand that Ronald Reagan, we talked about this earlier, the whole Iran hostage crisis back in the 80s that made Jimmy Carter a one-termer. Was because it's
a history podcast now.
They senselessly held those guys for extra months just to make Ronald Reagan look better, right?
Yeah, how long were they hostages in Iran?
Well,
it happened right before the presidential election, but it was I remember that news story as a kid, and it went on and on and on. And then Reagan took office, and boop, they were gone. They all came home.
Remember what you said about Jimmy Carter earlier? Like, how long is it going to be before we start talking about what a badass this guy is now that he's gone?
Well, I just feel like we always wait until someone's dead to say all the positive things about him. Although I think people have come around.
You seen what he's done?
Jimmy Carter was a fucking dog when we were kids. Like people they ran that guy out of office.
They did, but he didn't let that stop him from doing his projects and stuff like that. That guy's brought more water to people and everything.
And the one other thing about him too. He had a peanut farm in Georgia, and when he ran for president, he didn't want the appearance that he was doing it for personal gain, and so he put his peanut farm into escrow or some kind of legal protection, so he couldn't have access to it, so he couldn't be accused of corruption for owning a business.
So doing all of the right things,
and
it came back to bite him in the butt.
And now now everyone just seems to be lining their pockets everywhere.
One of the first things he did? He was one of the first presidents to speak openly about a UFO sighting.
I showed Scott the other day. I showed him Chat GPT, and the first question he asked is, "What is the moon made of, and why is it fake?"
That is not what I said.
What'd you say? Why is the moon not a real satellite?
I said,
natural body.
What do you think about the conspiracy that the moon is not a natural satellite? That's what I asked, because that is one out there. That may not necessarily be one that I subscribe to, but you said test this thing out. And I'm going, here's a good one. Let's listen to what Chad has to say.
And then ChatGPT said, "Stay where you are," and call the cops on us.
Yeah.
So even the phrase conspiracy theory, it's weird because it just kind of has come to mean fringe crackpot idea, but it means people working together to do something. Like there's a theory of people behind the scenes.
Sure.
There's a conspiracy, right?
I mean,
Isn't that what it means?
Well, absolutely. But I mean, think about again, there have been a million things that were talked about decades ago that only came to light recently. For example, the CIA bringing cocaine into the U.S. That is undisputed now. Undisputed. But if you would have said that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, people would have said, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And it is indisputable. Okay?
True.
Shit like that. That's what I'm saying.
What I often wonder is, and I ask you this from time to time, when you're going down the rabbit hole of some conspiracy theory or some idea, some fringe idea, let's call it.
Sure.
I wonder, what do you get out of it? Like, let's say you find out something. Like, you find out, like, what the pyramids were or something like that.
Which is also fascinating.
What do you get out
stuff.
of it? What do you get out of it? Like, you were big into 2012. Remember that? The Mayan calendar.
We talked about that on the show back then. I was big because of the self-fulfilling prophecy side of that. You have enough people that don't know shit that follow, guys like Terrence Howard, and people start going, "Oh, the Mayan calendar is going to end." No, it's not going to end. It's a Baktun or whatever, the reset portion of it. But when enough, the fever pitch that gets reached from so many people talking about it, they kind of can bring stuff into existence just by mass hysteria, that kind of stuff. So enough people talking about it, enough people worrying about it, enough people going, fuck it, I don't care anymore, the world's going to end, that can change things, right? So that's where I was on. I never thought the world was going to end. I never thought, the Planet 9 or whatever is going to come back around, all that crap that you guys were making fun of me that day.
But let's say you find out, like, who built the pyramids. Like, even if you find out it was alien travelers that came here.
It doesn't have to be. That's the other thing. It doesn't have to be aliens.
I'm throwing out a hypothetical. But here.
One thing,
you tell me who built the pyramids, and I'll speak to that.
We don't know. And anybody who says, "Oh yeah, we do know," no, that's been debunked. They're full of shit. We don't.
Fully debunked.
Well, I mean, look.
Like if I said the Egyptians, that would be debunked.
Have you heard about the people like Chris Dunn and all these guys that have?
Oh, I'm ankles deep on Chris Dunn. Who's Chris Dunn?
He was the first person to propose the idea that it was a power plant. And it's starting to look like, given the way...
What? Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
See, this is the thing. What?
This is
the first time you're being exposed to this, so I sound like a crackpot. But I've been studying this stuff for 10 years, and this is Pyramid 101.
I've been studying you for 30 years. It's not being exposed to the idea that makes me think you're a crackpot.
God
You being a crackpot is what makes me question the idea. Okay, go ahead. So it's a power plant.
Right. So, I mean, not only have they found residue of, look, we call these chambers in there the king's chamber, the queen's chamber. No queens or kings or bodies were ever found in the pyramids. Never mind the fact that there's no historical record of how these things were built. Now, did the Egyptians build pyramids? Yes, they did build pyramids, and they are documented, but not those. And probably not the bent pyramid, probably not the red one. But how would a pyramid function as a power plant? So it turns out that the granite that was used is piezoelectric material. So it's got crystals in it, and if it vibrates at a certain frequency, it can actually create electricity. I can see you looking at me right now.
You're checking every box, man. I'm happy as a clam over here.
We are just going to stop talking about this one. And I'm at the end of this podcast, if it makes it to air, which it may not.
It will.
In the bottom of your podcast, you know how you like to put links? I would love to put a bunch of links down there.
Dude, you can have an entire section where people can lose themselves in, give me your,
sure.
If you think about this, give me your top 3 fringe ideas. We're not going to say it's perfect. We're talking about respect here.
Thank you.
I'm not even going to say conspiracy theories.
Which is
fringe
very
ideas.
rare for us.
Undiscovered, yet.
We need a new term. Because the term conspiracy theory, was even brought up by...
Well, isn't the conspiracy that people are trying to prevent the truth from being known? So you could always say that falls.
Yeah, but also the term itself was brought about back in the 60s or 70s. I forgot what the event was. It may have even started with JFK. I don't know. One of your listeners will know better than me. But it was brought out to kind of sway people away from even questioning.
Oh, you would label people as such.
So I do like what you're doing. Just call it fringe theory. Fringe theory.
Fringe theory.
People that
Cutting edge
because
technology,
the fact
science.
is the reason why most people dismiss is because they know nothing about it. And that's just not just somebody saying, hey, you don't get it because you don't understand. I'm willing to say that, look, there's a bunch of bullshit out there.
Well, up until the first Iron Man movie, they didn't have the math they needed in order to explore this stuff.
And can you actually give me some credit there? I mean, granted, I don't use my math degree much. Well, I guess technically I do, if you think about it. With my
worked in engineering.
I did for a little while.
Oh, that's true. That's a really good point. So you have had two careers. One was an engineer, obviously heavy in mathematics. Your second was you're a professional gambler.
Yeah.
So
and
also,
my third is I play poker about 3
which
days
is the disregarding mathematics entirely.
Yeah.
Because you know you're going to lose eventually. But you say, not me.
Thing I do is I play poker where there is no house. I like being in control of the odds in the situation. Plus, there's a psychological element to it as well.
But when we play poker with the guys, we quote unquote do not understand how to play poker, and you get mad at us because we fuck up your probabilities because we don't make.
Yes,
we're all like 6 wild cards sitting around you,
right?
We don't understand the fucking probability of an ace.
But that's
king.
that's not the biggest problem. So
yeah.
You're right. I think me and you I ended up with all the money anyway, or maybe Gardner did, or so. I know I
think
was up
fucking
there.
Henley won because Henley
it
always
might have
wins.
been. But the biggest problem with a bunch of amateurs is they don't know when to fold. I would rather play at a table with a bunch of professionals,
right?
Or not look.
Your probabilities don't work if no one else is following it.
I'm not a professional. Let me make that very clear. I'm not a professional. I'm high recreational, low amateur at the very best. But I do the one thing I do better than most, even pros, is money management. My biggest decisions that I make are away from the table. Most of the decisions I make at the table are rote. I can do those in my head. I mean, while I'm watching something, playing with my phone, I don't have to think about that stuff.
So we're going to listen to, I'm not going to let you get away from this. I want to hear your top 3 conspiracy theories.
No,
I'm just throwing 3 out as a number.
Good Lord. Okay.
What are you currently obsessed with?
I'm not currently obsessed with anything, but stuff drops in me. Okay, so
I'll
go
with the conversation.
First,
you don't have to break.
Egyptology. Egyptology's one.
You just told me you wanted to get off that subject.
But you said, what's my top 3?
We're talking about pyramids. You said you want to get away from the subjects. Okay, Egyptology.
Well, as soon as I said granite, has crystals in it, and you're like, what the fuck? And I'm like, dude, within 8 minutes, I can show you this video and go, yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so second one is probably one that was the biggest life changer for most of us, especially being in just out of college and our careers had just started. Like 9/11 was a big one. I don't think
really.
I still think we're
that would be in your top 3. Give me the breakdown. Give me the big talking points, macro level.
The biggest talking points are the day before 9/10. Donald Rumsfeld comes on TV, or at least I don't know if it was that night, but it aired the night before and says, we don't know where $2.3 trillion is. And that was back when $1 trillion was a lot of money. Right. So,
by the way, I did the math. Your checks out. It was 9/10. That was the day before.
Thanks. But the main thing is this, and you and I have talked about this before. You may not remember it, but, so you've seen that there's websites from architects, engineers, pilots, talk about the free fall. Look, a steel structured building never before or since has fallen in free fall form like the towers did. Never mind the fact World Trade Center 7.
Okay.
Okay.
The other building,
that? The building that was not touched at all.
But it was in the same complex as 2 gigantic
skyscrapers. Yeah, and so were
out.
27 other buildings that had no damage whatsoever. That building wasn't touched and it fell in free fall.
What was in if I recall the fringe theory?
I've seen a list. I mean, it was
there was something in World Trade Center Building 7 that was.
I'm sure it was servers. It was probably money. It was probably
some kind of command center.
Offices of like I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've forgotten that stuff. It's like math. Everybody goes like, "Oh, you're a math guy," and I'm like, "Dude, that was
maybe it was granite,
30
crystals infused in it."
Fuck, give me a break. All right, so there's 2. The one that the only reason why I'm bringing this one up,
I wasn't expecting 9/11 to be
really?
Right there. Yeah, that's a charged one, sir.
Okay,
who knocked it down then?
Okay. Well, that's the thing. Whether or not the people they say knocked it down did or did not is irrelevant. It's the fact that we are at least complicit in some form or fashion with all the stand down orders and the allowing certain things to happen. Never mind the fact that, look, what about the Pentagon? One more thing, the Pentagon. We have witnesses that say they saw a not plane, probably more of a missile, went in there. Now, this is the Pentagon. It is the heartbeat. It is the brain of the strongest military force in the nation. It's got cameras everywhere. My dad used to work there. I've been there. I've walked through the halls.
I know what you meant, but you said the strongest military in the nation, which is kind of funny.
I'm sorry, military. in the
I
world.
know. We got you. We're with you.
Can we go back in there and dub world later?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
All right.
You're fine.
So, cameras everywhere.
This is a conversation in motion.
You're
man.
telling me all they released was 4 still frames of something. They're like, all right.
It wasn't a gas station camera that picked it up?
Well, they got that one.
That's what I'm saying. That's where they got the footage.
Look, if you want people to believe you and you want to put...
I do want that.
If you want to put the argument to rest, then just show any other footage of a plane going into the Pentagon. Why wouldn't you show it? You show the other ones going into the towers. You show the other ones going into the towers. Why wouldn't you show this plane?
Me?
Yeah. We have 4 still frames from one camera showing something going into the Pentagon. Never mind the fact that there was no debris from what would be a plane going.
So then where's the plane?
Where's the plane? Really? That's your defense? Well, where'd the plane go? You can't make a plane disappear?
How dare you? Is that your impression of me? I'm a professional broadcaster. How dare you? How dare you? That cut to the bone. So what's your third what would you call it? Crackpot lunacy? What's your third most?
Okay, so we've already gone from the respectful fringe theory, which was what I thought we.
I feel like every time we talk about this, you would come so well equipped with information, and then I throw you off, and you don't get to explain everything fully.
So but I don't have everything to explain.
The floor is yours. You tell me your third most favorite fringe theory, and I'm just going to let you talk.
Well, the one I was going to say the moon.
Because fuck! Come on,
dick. Such a dick. All right. The other, this is one I never thought I would be on board with, simply because it's absolutely silly. It's preposterous. But there's just too many things. Like the last time we did that show with Barb and Gus and Gavin, we did talk briefly about it, about why we haven't been back. And even my dad.
Oh, you're talking about the moon. Right. So the moon is your third.
Okay. Everybody's like, oh, there's no value. We've gotten everything out of it we can. I'm like, really? We're gonna send people to Mars, which is 35 million miles away, but we can't control a place that's 278,000 miles away where we can control it. Now, granted, gravity's different, and it does pose its own problems, but I mean, it's been 50 years since we've been there, since we've had a man on the moon.
But other people are going there now. People are sending these unmanned landers. You know, India's got one there.
Mm-hmm, yeah, they went on the backside too.
Did the Indian one make it?
They did go on the backside. Right, but what were the 3 questions we asked chat yesterday? It was like...
is it a natural satellite? You said, why don't impacts of asteroids go deep on the moon? Why did it ring like a bell?
Why are all the depths of the craters on the moon the exact same, regardless of the radius, how big it is? It doesn't happen anywhere else.
But isn't there a stat about the Earth that if you shrunk the Earth down to the size of a cue ball, it would be smoother than a cue ball?
If you shrunk the Earth down to the size of a cue ball, which, by the way, you should be able to do, because if you know anything about atoms, it's mostly space. But some people say if you get everything down and compact.
That is not how that works. I'm pretty confident. I also have a science degree. I'm pretty sure that's not how that works.
Really? What's your science degree, mofo?
You're telling me you can just shrink the space between atoms?
No, of course. Well, I mean, it does happen on some level. Look, it would be a black hole, but it wouldn't matter. If you could stay out where the surface is, it still wouldn't affect you.
You can just, slowly condense one of the strongest forces in nature. Come on, get out of here. You're a lunatic.
By the way, that is. I can't believe we haven't even gone to the whole UFO. Well, I guess we're kind of talking about it right now.
It's just too much. There's so much in the world we don't know about, Scott.
It is too much. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that belongs in the bottom of your... I mean, rather than sounding like... You already think I'm insane, and you know me. So why would I go to great lengths to even talk about more when I can just post in the bottom and we can see what people say about it?
My thing with you is you get so, and this is more so of, there's a lot of people who have someone like you in their lives where they explore these things all the time. They're very interested in it. And I just wonder, because sometimes people get an unhealthy obsession with it. And I just want to know, what do you get out of it? Like, if you find out, what does that help? What's going to change?
That is actually a great question. I don't know how to answer that. I mean,
because it seems really important to know the truth.
That's the main thing. That is the main thing. I don't care what the answer is. I just want the truth. And from a probability standpoint, from a mathematical standpoint, that's how I approach everything in my life. There's an algorithm going off in my head, whether something, number one, deserves my time, how much of it, where am I getting my information from? Do I trust the source? Has it been corroborated? I mean, there's all sorts of things, right? And so I do find some of this stuff interesting, the stuff that most people don't even care about. I mean, look at you. You got 4 kids. You have a podcast to do. You have much more interesting people to talk to. You don't have the kind of time to dick around like I do.
I like talking to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I like talking to you too. But I can see how it would drive you nuts every once in a while. Right? You're going to be ready to get out of here. By the time we spend 4 more days packing stuff.
How did I describe you recently? I said Scott is like a walking intrusive thought, basically. Scott's also the guy who will that whole don't say it, and then he says it. That's Scott.
That is so true. But I do have a talent as well for being able to, number one, phrase it in such a way that it can be, I don't know, either charming or unoffensive, or if I see that the person I'm talking to is clearly offended, I'm like, okay, we can work our way out of this one.
Look at you growing as a person.
I am maturing somewhat.
Do you have any other thoughts about the moon that you want to share with us?
I mean, no. Anybody who's listening to this, I'm not trying to change people's mind. Anybody who's listening to this and goes, "Oh yeah, I've heard about that too." You're going to have enough people. I guarantee you, there are people who have heard this cockamamie, which you will probably describe it as, or this other theory that it is not a natural satellite.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it
so
is.
That's
I'm saying there's a compelling argument.
What I'm saying is we do get distracted.
We do not know. Look it up.
I don't feel like you've said anything, though.
You're right. I have said jack shit because I don't
you're talking about the individual things and then moving away from them really quickly. So really quickly, give us your summary about why is the moon not a natural satellite? And if it is not, what is it?
Well, first, I think it's probably a space station. I think it's probably an observation deck. I think there's probably past iterations of human that have come and gone on this planet that maybe were lucky enough to be raptured or, so that's the funny thing. I talked to my buddy John.
That took a wild left turn there. Okay, go ahead.
And this is exactly why I didn't want to get into
raptured. What's that about?
Okay, look, how much time do we have? This is the problem. We do not have enough time to get in all this stuff. So I'm just like, wait, just leave it in the notes. Let's move on to something else.
Really? Are you sure about that?
Well, look, I mean, capture theory is the biggest theory about how the moon got there. A object came in, struck the Earth, and the resulting material coalesced into 2 bodies, one going around the other. Now there's some issues with the material types. I mean, you would expect both bodies to contain almost exactly the same stuff, and you don't. A lot of it is, but the fact that there's a density problem there, the ringing of the bell, like when we crashed a limb into it after we were done with our 2 visits. One time it rang for an hour and a half, another time it rang for 5, meaning it vibrated. A solid structure will do that a little bit, but not a lot, as much as it did. You
mean like a solid celestial body?
Yeah.
So that means what? It's hollow?
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing is, it is with the exception, I think, of maybe Phobos, one other moon, it is the largest satellite to its host planet in our solar system.
And you think that speaks to it being constructed?
Well,
that it's bigger?
Well, because Jupiter and Saturn have 80 moons apiece. Why is no other moon, 1/6 the size of that planet? How did that not happen?
It's fucking wealth inequality.
Okay. All right. Here's another.
Or can I just throw this out there?
Here's another
the
thing.
mass of the planet. Okay, go ahead.
Well, it is the only satellite that does not revolve around its host planet on the same way that it's spinning. It's at a 5-degree tilt. And why? So you can actually have a perfect observation of the entire planet. We were taught that the revolution and the rotation of the moon is such that they match, so you always see the same face. Or you can say it's tidal locking, which is kind of a bullshit answer, because what exactly would tidal locking be? One side's heavier than the other one? Well, if that's the case, wouldn't it draw closer and closer to
Doesn't this happen in other celestial bodies, though?
It does, but they may also be occupied. Okay, see,
here we go.
Now we're getting way the fuck off.
Look how
here.
deep this conspiracy goes.
This is why I wanted to come off it.
Okay, listen, I'm interested in it.
It is.
But I'm not just going to sit here
And listen to your bullshit.
and not challenge it. I can't sit
got
here.
you.
And, I can't sit here.
I mean,
and not do
there's a bunch of other. If I knew we were going to talk about that, I would have taken some notes on it. But there's some.
What the fuck did you think I was going to want to talk to you about? This is interesting. But then if you find out, let's say we find out that it was past humans that was there. I feel like there's a goal for you and a motivation. That's what I was trying to get to you as someone who knows you personally.
Okay, so that's why.
How will this improve the quality of your life spending time figuring this stuff out? Maybe that's a better question.
So that's why I haphazardly.
You could be losing money at poker right now instead we're talking about this stuff.
I haphazardly and foolishly mentioned a rapture. I'm not even a religious person, but I mentioned that because I wanted to draw the distinction between there's people on this planet that think, oh, we're going to have to go through, tough times, and then the people that were worthy or believers will be drawn out. I'm saying, what if it's them that are believing in the wrong thing and they're not following the right thing? We always have this vision of this dystopian society. The world will. Can we say something extravagant and silly that we can believe that it's at some point this world will end again or reset or something like that? Can we at least agree that we've already had 5 extinction level events? Some people will believe we're in.
Oh, you mean the planet will reset,
planet.
not humanity?
Right.
Humanity will be like one of the things lost in the reset.
Exactly. Well, there's always pockets that survive. That's my point. I think there's probably always pockets that survive. Like we have this idea that we evolved over 250, 300,000 years from cavemen to this.
Go ahead.
I'm saying if you listen to people like good interviews, this is a good interview that Joe Rogan did. Hey, here's a callback for you. He had Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock at the same time. These are guys that are being more and more accepted about their views on like the Younger Dryas, which was 12,500 years ago, and ancient civilizations that may have existed on this planet before us, or it might have been us, right? It may have been us, and we've lost our technology. We have a planet that has forgotten its history. So you're saying, what is the importance to you? I don't know. Maybe being a believer and finding the truth allows me to get to the other side, not be on the dystopian side when stuff resets. Maybe they're like, okay, this guy was clever enough to figure it out and gave us the support that we deserve. He can come with us. I don't know.
Interesting. So just knowing the quote unquote truth, knowing it would somehow give you access.
Wouldn't that be the same thing as believing in God? That's the other thing. I think a lot of what we read, I believe a lot of what's written in the Bible is
like
true.
you're saying basically it'll unlock some kind of reward for you.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's a silly way to put it, but that's probably the easiest way to put it for right now. I mean,
yeah.
I could probably put it more eloquently later if I had some time to, think about it. But
take drugs.
Are you a druggie? No. I'm drinking right now, though. Thank you. This is delicious.
Is it? You're the only person I've ever met in my life who drinks rum on the rocks. It's just rum.
Really?
I've never seen rum.
Do you drink whiskey?
Drank straight, I don't think.
I know. I guess you drink it.
I guess people have done Bacardi shots or something like that, but just a glass of rum.
Okay. Well, I'm an alcoholic.
I'm just
what do you
saying
want?
it's interesting. I'm not making fun of you or anything like that.
Oh, you're not
I'm
making
fun
fun of me.
a little bit. I'm doing a little bit. Any other crazy crackpot theories you want to reveal about yourself before we call it for today?
Man, no. I really thought we were going to touch on some other stuff. But
What did you think we were going to touch on? We talked about this beforehand.
I don't know.
What do you want to touch on?
Yeah, you're right. I'm lost.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, that does it for us today. I will be back on Monday to speak with you. Thank you, Scott, for joining us today and sharing your innermost thoughts about the way the universe works. I'll be back on Monday to speak with you all. I hope you all will be here as well. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Later, everyone.